welcome to the Coaching Uncovered podcast, the podcast where coaches come to talk about coaching. My name is Brent Davis and I'm the host of the podcast, and I have got another young gun on the show today. We've been going down this pathway a fair bit recently, so I've got an Australian golf professional on the line today, Brie Webb. Thanks for coming in and talking to me, Brie.
No worries at all, Brent. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
It's as people have heard me say the last few weeks, I'm getting people that are blowing up my social feed with all their content and all their good posts out there, and I always see you putting good stuff out there. So I'm keen to have a chat today and talk a bit about you and your experiences and your plans for the future, which we've kind of chatted quickly about off air, but we'll explore that during the podcast. But for those that don't know you, can you give us a bit of a background of who you are?
So I am a PGA professional, currently up in Cairns in far north Queensland. Beautiful one day, sunny the next. It's gorgeous up here. So I've been up here 4 years now, after graduating from my time down in Brisbane. Went through a couple of clubs down there, got some really good experience, obviously through the PGA of Australia, helping me through my traineeship, and now I am in the middle of a Bachelor of Psychology, looking to expand on what I'm doing with sort of coaching and in the golf space.
Psychology, that's a curious topic, but we'll certainly get to that as we go through. I think you may be a little bit crazy when it comes to going down that path for your study, so it's a fairly significant pathway and a whole lot of work to be done. But no, that is really cool, but we'll certainly get to that. But you brought up the trainee program then. It's kind of a common question I ask the women coaches that come on the show is your experience in the trainee program, because as we've spoken about in the past, you're traditionally thrown into a program that's predominantly male-based. There's only a handful of females in the program across the whole country. So how was that experience for you?
It wasn't a far out experience for me. I grew up in a small country town in Victoria. There were maybe a dozen to 20 of us in the golf program, and there were less than 6 girls, and myself and my younger sister made up 2 of those. So I was pretty used to being in a fairly male dominated space. When I was 15, Mum and Dad moved me up to Hills International Boarding School. So, much more golfy environment, but still the guys have always outnumbered the girls in that sort of golf space. So it wasn't anything I didn't expect. I had a pretty rough go of my playing, to be honest. And that was a really interesting learning curve for me. I don't think competing against the boys had anything to do with that. And I even get people ask me now, what do you think of the guys and the girls being in the same prize pool? I'm like, I'm all for it. The girls play off the women's tees to the women's par. Okay, we are just as capable of shooting good scores as the boys, right? We're good golfers. But, the boys, being that majority, do come out more often than not. But we're still up in the running there. Like in my last year, I made a little bit of cash, and it was really nice. And that was just because I got my own stuff together and started playing better golf, and started meeting my peers instead of, just carrying on and playing to, a female playing standard, really. They have that lesser expectation of us, I think. And I don't always see that as a good and positive thing. I think striving to meet the boys and compete against, those that are our peers is really a good thing. And not always across every sport, but golf, playing from a slightly further forward tee, we have just as much opportunity. So, some sort of handicapping does need to happen, but in the same prize pool is fair enough.
What were your thoughts? Because we just had that tournament recently where they had the women and the guys and the juniors essentially in the same field, same prize pool, same tournament in that Players Series. It was up at Cobram just recently. Did you happen to catch any of that?
I didn't catch too much of that. Unfortunately, I was working the whole time and we don't get the channels in the golf shop, but, following along on just the websites and that sort of stuff, I think it's fantastic. I think it is absolutely fantastic to see, you see tennis where they're bringing the women's prize pool up to the men's and that sort of stuff. Like just throw them all in together. Throw them all in together, and yes, that little bit of handicapping definitely helps with the further forward tees, etc. But have at it. Like, if you're not up there but you're motivated to win, you'll find a way. You'll work harder. You'll grind and get what you need to done.
Makes sense. So just quickly on the trainee program, and we've had this chat with a few of the female graduates recently, that the academic side is generally stronger part when you guys come through the program. Always enjoy marking the assignments that come through from the female trainees as opposed to some of the guys, because they're a little bit slacker on the work. But how did you find being able to do the schoolwork side of things and the playing and the full-time work? It's a challenging space sometimes to get that all in going at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, and one I've clearly continued through. You've got to manage your time, and that's you talk to the next lot of juniors and elite amateurs that are looking at that PGA Pathways program, and you just got to sit them down and go, okay, please understand, I know right now that you're working full time, you're practicing a bit, and you're playing some golf on the weekends, and you're playing real well. But man, once you are in that shop for 38 hours a week, eating, sleeping, breathing golf, playing, your assessment rounds, and then all of your tournament rounds, as well as, your golf heavy study, it's a lot. But I quite liked it because it all kind of feeds into one another, and, just prioritizing. And maybe I probably didn't prioritize my golf as much as I could have, which is maybe why I didn't win as much prize money. I put a little bit more into the academic side of things, but yeah, I quite enjoy the academic side of things, which is why I've continued with further learning.
Yeah, which is cool. And I suppose you have to choose, don't you, at the start? And you obviously had in your head that you were going to go down a certain pathway as opposed to a playing pathway. So you just did what you have to do to pass the playing. And
I mean, I remember the first training school we sat down for, and I cannot even remember who the lecturer was. It may have even been yourself or Brock Greenhold from the Queensland PGA. Sat us down and went, okay, you're sitting day one, first training school of the next 3 years. Where do you imagine your pathway being? Do you want to be a tournament player? Put your hand up, and a couple little hands go up here or there. Do you want to be a teaching pro? A couple little, and you saw, you've got a lot of different pathways between teaching and playing and managing golf courses. That is a massive, massive project that having the PGA background definitely helps you with. And it was just interesting to see the guys. There were a lot more hands up for being a playing professional at, day one, year one. The graduates obviously decrease as we go through. I think I started with 19 in my year in Queensland, and I graduated with a dozen or so, and we retained a lot in my year. So you see the numbers dwindle, and then the number of guys and girls that do go on to actually play is significantly reduced from the start to the finish, because it's not the traineeship, the PGA pathways is not PGA membership pathways is not really aimed at playing, right? As far as I'm concerned, you can definitely become a player throughout your traineeship. You can develop that if you haven't quite yet, but I just, you got to go Q schools and tournaments. You've got to be getting that tournament experience from the get-go. So I get really worried for the guys that think they're going into a PGA membership pathways with the idea of playing. Okay, yes, your PGA qualifications are going to be a great backup, but the number of guys that do take that next step into continuing the playing, I think it's much better to focus on the academics and get that side of it down pat and make sure that you do have a long career in the golf industry, which is, the industry that we all love.
I think I'm on the same page there with you on that one. It's just if you're going to be a player, you aren't doing the pathways program because you're already bypassing that stuff. If you've got that playing talent, you are doing tool schools essentially. So
yeah,
that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, not trying to dishearten anyone or say that it's not possible to be done. It is, there are guys out there doing it, but it's a lot harder, I think, to go
It is
the membership pathway than Q schools.
And we're talking maybe 3 players, and they're only in Australia. I can't think of anyone that's had gone overseas and done super well from the pathways program. So,
and not in recent years either.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so talk me through the Hills program because I'm curious about that. So that's for people that don't know, Hills is a golf school based in Queensland where you're essentially doing high school and golf coaching as well. So talk me through what the coaching was like and what a typical training week was like at Hills.
So everyone thinks it was just this. There's 2 kind of perceptions: people that know about the golf program and people that don't. People that know about the golf program are like, oh, okay, so you pretended to go to school while you just played a heap of golf. Like, I wish that was the case. So I was we had such a large group going through the golf program when I was in there that we had your Monday, Thursday groups and then your Tuesday, Friday groups. So I was in the Monday, Thursday group. We would go to school in the morning as per usual at whatever start times were. I can't remember. It was that long ago now. But you'd start school in the morning. You'd go to school all day. We did 5 subjects in grade 11 and 12 instead of the 6 for your QCE. You go to school until lunchtime and then you'd have your lunch. After lunch, golf was actually factored in as a subject for us. So we would then, on a Monday, Thursday, we would go and have lessons, either group lessons, testing, training, playing holes of some sort until about 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then on Tuesdays and Fridays, we would go to school all day. And then we'd do an hour of golf-specific gym program afterwards. And then on a Wednesdays were my favorite, we'd go to school in the morning as per usual and then leave school after 11 o'clock and go and play 18 holes. So we still did all of our schoolwork, all of our subjects. And, I was actually talking to a tour pro a little while ago about this. If you're not on tour or trying to make it on tour, treating golf like a 9 to 5, you're not just getting left behind. You're not even making the car park, mate. This is a grind. So most of us were getting to school at 6, 7 a.m., practicing our, what we were learning before school, going to school, going to golf after school. Even on your days where you didn't have coaching and you only had gym, you'd still go and practice before and after gym, right? And you had to do all of your assessments. Assessments and homework. Hills was really good with tournaments and that sort of stuff, I found. I gained a lot of tournament experience. They used to do a lot of shuttle buses to the Greg Norman Jr. events. So just, every couple of weeks, getting that tournament experience under your belt as a junior is so, so valuable. And then for the better players and in your later years, generally you looked at traveling to, World Juniors, whether that be, I did Optimus World Junior in the US and I did Jakarta World Junior in Indonesia. So just opportunities that potentially wouldn't have been available other than through guys like Hills.
Okay, it sounds like it's a pretty full-on program, so it would suit certain people. I'm sure there's some people that thrived in that type of setup, and some people that might have thought, well, this is a little bit overwhelming. But I suppose you get a taste of what tour golf would be like. I suppose you get it thrown at you in that junior space. You're essentially full-time golfers.
Yeah.
Gives you a nice little taste of it. So, did you see anyone get to that stage where they said, "Nah, screw this, I'm not doing golf anymore"?
Oh, yes, all the time. And honestly, I got to that point.
Okay.
So what not a lot of people know is that before I started my traineeship, I'd actually given up golf for 18 months. Okay. I finished up my grade 12 at Hills and lost a lot of love for it. Practicing and playing and doing everything golf related 7 days a week really starts to take a toll on you. And, I probably wasn't necessarily paying attention to myself and what I needed as well. So I wasn't really having rest days or anything like that. I, had little trips here or there, but everything was so golf centric that I got over it. And there's still only a handful of students that I graduated with that are still playing golf or playing golf at a professional level. So Anthony Quayle, Maverick Antcliffe, Jake McLeod, Corey Crawford, those guys are the guys that I know that are still out there and doing quite well. Anthony did really well last time he was in Brizzy. There's still those of us that have gone, more of the membership pathways or still working in the golf industry, but not playing at the professional level that we were kind of all working towards or what we thought we were working towards. So, yeah, you see it happen a lot.
Yeah. It's, okay, so I'm curious now because obviously you got some sort of enjoyment back into it and went through the pathway program and got out there as a PGA pro at the end of it, which is great. And again, it's a common question I ask women that come on the podcast is so you've gone out there into the golf industry. You're probably coaching, doing some sort of shop hours, working involved at clubs, which are, again, traditionally AL based. What are some of the good things about that, and what are some of the problems you've faced in that environment?
Oh, I don't want to dwell too much on the problems.
Okay, that's fair enough.
We can touch on those, but I don't like to dwell too much on that sort of stuff. It is definitely a space where females are underrepresented. So especially early on when, now that I'm in a club and everyone knows who I am and what I'm about, and Cairns is small, so I'm not getting just randoms walking through. I found it a lot more in Brisbane. You get someone come in needing some sort of golf advice, a repair, wanting to buy a club, and, oh yeah, I need to speak to the boys. I'm like, okay, well, I can actually help you with that there if you'd like. Oh, no, I really, really think I need to speak to the boys. And it does hurt a little bit, just when people sort of don't see your value just because you are a female and think that your information and opinion is maybe not as valid as the boys. So that's a tough one. There is still bits and pieces of sexism around, as much as we're making strides to take a few of those things out, it's still there. So I actually love nothing more than on a comp day. I'm not allowed to go in the comps, so I just play for my handicap and goof around with the members. So I usually play off the men's tees, unless I'm putting a card in for proper handicapping and I have to play off the ladies. So I usually play off the men's just as a little, well, I can do it too, guys, kind of thing.
Love it.
So I love that side of things, and it's always fun. I was my partner that I'm with now was actually working at a driving range in Brizzy for a bit. So I'd go out and hang out with him while he was working, let him do his job, obviously, but I'd go and hang out at the range, wait for him to finish up. And I'd be standing on the range, hitting golf shots in, jeans or leggings and just a normal shirt. I don't think you always have to be long pants, icons, collared shirt to play golf. I think that's a little bit old. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy dressing like a golfer sometimes. It makes me feel, really nice to walk out in a nice pair of pants and the really nice button-up shirt, but let me wear some leggings, damn it. So yeah, I was rocking up to the range and just hitting some shots, and man, if I missed one even half a foot left of target, I'd have 3 guys in my backswing telling me I'm doing this, doing that, standing too close, standing too far away, this, that, and the other thing, like they enjoy doing. So I started teaching myself left-handed when I wasn't doing a proper practice session, so that I could, do a little bit of a Brie kind of thing, hitting left-handed, goofing around. You'd have some guy come in and try and help you with your golf swing. So I kind of turn around, have a little bit of a laugh, flip the club upside down, smash it out there right-handed, and be like, actually, mate, thanks for your help, but no thanks. So because of some of the prejudices, I like to play on those a little bit and go, well, you think I didn't know what I was talking about, but surprise. So
I do. I can play this game.
I can do the things. Don't worry. I got this. Probably better than you do. So yeah,
it's got to be a challenging space, and you would hope that it's changing now, but it still keeps popping up in these conversations I'm having. That we're still seeing this stuff, and hopefully we can get the information out there a little bit more and stop those stupid people. Essentially, what they are it has to be frustrating for you. I can only imagine how frustrating it actually is for you.
I mean, at the start, it was something that used to get me really wound up, and I'd be like, I'd walk out doing a repair, and someone would be, oh, don't get your hair caught in the tape or the drill. I'm like, man, I know how to use power tools. Like, it's not an issue, but it has become less frequent. I don't know if that's a sign of times changing, or if people just recognize, that I am actually a golf pro now. But yeah, it's kind of like water off a duck's now when people just, fob me off because I'm a chick. It's, oh yeah, all right, mate. You go down the road and get some crappy advice from your mate that plays off a really high handicap that thinks he knows what he's talking about. Like, you enjoy that, see how that assists your golf, and I'll just continue doing my thing, enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah. So talk me through some ideas that you've got to get more women and girls into golf. You were talking before about wearing more comfortable clothes, obviously, instead of having to wear the formal golfing gear all the time. What are some things that we can do as the golf industry in general to get more females into the game?
Make it a more female-friendly space. And yeah, as you said, we're working on things like changing the dress code, and it's not just females either. I'd have mates come down from the gym that just wanted to go for a bash for 9 holes. They'd be in, nice pair of shorts, plain white t-shirt and some joggers, and you got to turn him away because he's not got a collared shirt on. Like, really? He's just about to hand over cash, and I can't take it because he's in the wrong shirt. But don't worry, I can take old Bill's cash that's still wearing a shirt from, the 1980s that's faded and has mothballs in it. But don't you worry, because it's got a collar. Like, it just made absolutely no sense to me. So we've up here, we've worked really hard on, breaking down some of those barriers. We've got women-only clinics and that sort of thing. We actually in Cairns have more females in the golf shop than we do males.
Nice.
And it's a really nice space for females to walk into. They feel a little bit more comfortable. You know, you walk into even the gym, for example. You walk in at sometimes in the gym and it's just guys there. And, you know, I'm still going to go in, I'm still going to do my thing, but it's just that little bit of discomfort. So placing females in spaces where they may not necessarily have been before, i.e. in the golf shop, makes it a lot easier for women to access then.
Makes sense, and I've heard it said on podcasts about if you can see it, you can be it, and if you make women golfers more visible, then it has to encourage people to get involved. So hopefully that's a step forward.
Yeah.
It's as I said, I'm coming from a white male privileged background, so I've got no concept of what people like you have to go through to get into some sort of equal footing. It's just crazy.
I mean, yeah, I'm white female that's pretty strong and pig-headed in my own right. So I'll insert myself into spaces where I'm not always wanted and sorry, mate, I'm here, deal with me. I've heard a number of other girls have a lot more issues with things, and it's really hard too, because they feel like they're in the wrong. You know, and it's not you, babe. It's him or it's them. It's, you know, you're just trying to enjoy golf and your passion, and, you know, it's that person's issue, not yours. But they take it on and think it's personal, which is really sad, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Stubborn and pig-headed, that's not you. You're not like that, are you? I don't believe that.
Not at all. I think the first training school do you still remember that one?
I recall quite a few phone calls and conversations over the journey from you. So that's all part of the fun. I always recall chats, and we'll call them conversations, but they're essentially complaints. But let's call them conversations for now.
I like assisting with feedback. It's just providing feedback, and I think you were screening my calls for a while there, but
never.
At the end of it, we always got to the bottom of whatever was going on and got things sorted. So I always appreciated getting on the phone with you, because even if there was something major going on, you sat down and went, okay, let's work through it. So that's why you always got my phone calls. Sorry.
Always part of the fun, so that's all good. That's all good. Okay, so let's get into where you're headed. I want to talk about this, and I'm going to come back to some stuff that I want to cover off in the future. But I'm keen to know about this further study. So you're going off to study psychology, which I did one subject of that when I did my master's, and it's a very cool space to be involved with, by the way, and I think it's a really cool space. But that was hard enough for me, just doing one subject for one semester. So I can only imagine what it's like doing a full psych qualification. So talk me through the thought process about going down that path.
Well, obviously now that I've run you through my background, you can see I like to be busy. I do not do very well with being bored. So once I kind of finished up my traineeship and moved to far north and settled in here, I was, coaching, and I was in the shop and I was enjoying it, but I just felt unsettled. Something was a bit off. And I sat down and looked at myself and I said, can I do this for the next 50 years of my working career? Yeah, no worries. I could definitely make a career out of it. There were pathways there for me, no worries. But I just didn't feel like I was assisting people in the best way I could. So I was coaching and my clients were getting results, and it's always really fulfilling when that happens. But I just struggled a little bit with imposter syndrome as well. So I didn't quite feel like that was my space to be. But when I sat down and started recording my lessons and working out, making notes of what we were working on and actually combing through those, I realized that I wasn't, there are definitely technical aspects that I was working on with my clients, but I was inadvertently working on a lot more psychological aspects than they definitely had no idea. And then when I sat down, I was like, oh, right. I'm actually getting results through, instead of, fixing the swing and making it a technically perfect swing, I'm out there helping them score. I'm out there helping them get that ball in the hole, because I know that the initial discussion we had in training schools, and I remember very vividly, was drive for show, putt for dough. You brought up the statistics of, long drive is much more helpful in shots gained. And I just, I was someone that could hit the ball a really long way, but could absolutely not get my scoring together. And I'm going, no, that's not right. I know that the numbers say otherwise, but you have to get the ball in the hole. So I was working a lot more with that sort of thing, and started, looking at, helping people with an actual degree behind me, and making sure that what I was teaching and what I was doing with my clients was correct. So I started looking at psychology pathways, and had, my PGA traineeship behind me, which helped me get some RPLs and that sort of thing towards the psychology degree. So I'm kicking along with that part-time while I'm doing full-time work in the shop and loving it. But eventually looking to assist elite athletes with holistic wellness, because I don't see many people that can play if your head's not right. Just thinking about the conversations I was having with guys in my traineeship, there was one guy in my second year who just played the absolute lights out, could not have won more events or placed in the top 10 anymore, was just ridiculous. And then he had some personal things go on, and all of a sudden he couldn't break 80. And it was just really in your face to see a guy, of that caliber of golfer go from just shooting the absolute lights out to can't even get the damn thing in the hole because of what's going on with his head. And I think, too many people are worried about, we'll just talk about golf. Like, I don't care, pre-shot routine's a big thing, warm up on the range is a big thing, but if you're not doing well in life outside of golf, everything then comes onto the golf course, and you're sitting there worrying about, should I have said that to the missus last night? Oh, this is not feeling great. And you're not there, you're not present, and you're not able to perform.
It just makes so much sense, and it sounds like you've got your head screwed on well here, because you've essentially targeting yourself to all golfers and all sports people, which is great. And we've had this conversation with different guests on the podcast as well, is the fact that as golf coaches, we traditionally focus too much on technique, and you've got two issues there. You've got the average player that hasn't got the time to improve their technique anyway, so you'll improve them by strategy, routines, all psych stuff. And then you get to the high performance players, they've probably got a pretty good technique anyway, so you don't have to touch it too much, and you can start playing around with the performance aspects of their game. So sounds like you've hit a pretty good target market there, which is good.
Yeah, trying to anyway.
But I can certainly see a part 2 or a part 3 or a part 4 of this podcast coming on as you progress through your studies, and we'll see as you get closer to those goals. I'll be curious to get you back on the show and see where, because that performance coaching field is really intriguing to me. And you see guys like Dave Allwood, for example, who's been at coaching summits over the years with the Australian PGA and working with different sports on performance-based stuff. It's just a really cool way to see improvement without working purely on technique. I think that's great.
Think, for example, you look at the number, and it's been prevalent in the media lately, which is why it pops into my head, the number of NRL and AFL players that are finishing up their careers and then really struggling with mental illnesses, whether it be suicidal tendencies, depression, anxiety. Man, some of them are struggling with eating disorders because they don't know how to do it without this giant team around them to support them. And they all of a sudden lose that. Whereas I feel like if they had that support and were able to understand and nurture themselves throughout their career, they'd be set up better to continue that afterwards. And I'm not criticizing what anyone's doing at the moment. I'm seeing these guys and they're struggling, and I'm so grateful that they are speaking out, okay, because, speaking about things destigmatizes them. But I just feel like if we spoke about these things earlier, then we may not have to worry about them later on. And when they get to a point that, the depression is so bad that they're harming in whatever way. Nipping it in the bud nice and early, giving them the foundations should make better, well-rounded humans.
I certainly think it's an evolving space, because you think even probably 20 years ago, we didn't have any of that kind of stuff for athletes either. They didn't have any coaching or training for what they would do after their career. As you said, that's in that situation where they've got their team support, and then they can't cope when they get out there, and you see there's some pretty significant people out there that have struggled after their careers. So it certainly is an evolving space, and it sounds like you're going to be in that charge forward to improve it even further.
Trying to.
Which is really cool. So where do you see yourself sitting in that space when you do finish, when you do graduate? How are you going to set your coaching up in that space when you get through?
I am hoping to base myself predominantly online. So you see, and especially with the COVID situation, you see a lot of psychology sessions happening via Skype and that sort of stuff. And I think that and just supporting people even remotely, like, I see a psychologist and I think she is absolutely fantastic. I see her once a month once every couple of months, just to check in, make sure everything's going okay. But I find having support groups on the side and that sort of thing can be continuously more beneficial than having that, sit-down session. So I think working myself into an online space and having constant interactions with people, whether it's messages, timetables, workshops, that sort of thing, and the Skype sessions, that's sort of where I'm looking to go. But I do have a number of years to go. Unfortunately, the psychology degree is quite long, and especially when you're doing it part-time. So I feel like I've got plenty of time to work that out. But yeah, just basing myself up here.
So how far through it are you? If you're doing it part-time, how far have you got into it?
2 years. 2 years.
You've been doing 2 years part-time, or you 2 years through the degree?
I'm into my second year of my degree now. So It's a 3-year bachelor's and then a 2-year master, 3-year bachelor and then a 2-year honours afterwards. Sorry, I'm a little bit right. But yeah, so I got plenty of time to get through it and just cruising instead of, I've spoken to a couple of people, it's definitely possible for you to work full-time and study full-time. And yeah, it 100% is. But would I enjoy it as much? Would I be producing good work at my workplace? Would I be producing good assessments? And would I be a nice person to be around? Maybe not. Maybe not. So it's doable, but I'd rather, kind of cruise through it a little bit more and make sure I get the best out of it.
Yeah, and that seems to make common sense. You still have to have some sort of outside life. You don't want to kill yourself in the first, just for 5 years just to get through it. You want to be able to enjoy life as well. So.
And as we sort of spoke about, you see that in young athletes. I burnt out with golf. Like, I don't want to push myself through this and then get to the end of it hating psychology, having done a degree that I now don't want to use. So I think, taking a lower gear and actually making sure I enjoy it the whole way through is much more important.
So you're getting into your second year, so you've covered a fair few different topics. Is there anything that's jumped out at you early on that you think, wow, I was so wrong with this in my own career, or I could have done this and changed this?
I want to say yes, but I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think the way I've evolved through my career has led me to where I am now. Had I had a couple of things go a different way, I might not be sitting here having a chat to you. So I think every part of it is definitely important. I probably didn't place enough importance on psychological and, just general well-being early on in my teenage and adult years, eating lots of junk food, not working out, and why do I feel like crap and have no energy? Making some healthy changes earlier on probably would have been much more beneficial. The thing that really got me was the nature-nurture debate. That's one that sticks with me. Obviously, understanding zygotic and digizygotic twins and the way that, nature actually has a stronger prevalence in development than nurture. They do both work hand in hand, but nature does have that slightly higher reach. So understanding that, sometimes there are things that you're just not good at because you're just not good at them. You can learn and you can try your absolute best, but, some people are born with natural abilities and some people aren't, and that's the way it is.
Okay, I'm going to word you up now. You might be part of a panel discussion at some point in time, because I've got myself as the golf coach, and I've got people that tune into those podcasts would know Scotty as the exercise guy that comes on the podcast as well. So to put a psych in that mix as well would be pretty cool. So you've been told that you might have to come back at some stage.
All right, twist my arm. Me, a panel.
To come and talk some more. So that would be really cool. Okay, so you said you, as part of your study, you're going on to some postgrad type study. So you research topics. What's catching your eye at the moment to research to do that?
I have to be careful to not get myself in trouble and put myself as an outcast amongst my peers. I am very interested in understanding the way that elite athletes develop socially. I feel that elite athletes that are like junior elite athletes spend so long honing their craft that they don't necessarily socially develop with their peers. And I obviously, as a golfer, I focus very heavily on golf. It may potentially not show as true in team sports, but I just see a number of for want of a better terminology, and please no one get upset at me, emotionally stunted development in elite athletes that were so busy playing golf and being on their own as a junior, grinding away. They're not always the most socially adapted adults. Yeah.
Sounds like a really cool topic, though. And just to let everyone know that please send all complaints and comments to the social media handles in the show notes for this one. If you want to have a crack at Brie, you can go through her socials. But again, it does. But and there's so many cases of that. You see it out there. So to have that as a topic that you want to research to improve is great. I don't see that as a problem at all. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I've spoken to a couple of people and what do you mean? Like I'm socially developed, and I'm like, I'm not talking you in particular. I'm talking like throw me in that category as well. I'm not the most socially inept person out there. So yeah, I'm like, hey, I'm not criticizing. I just want all of us to be better. And yeah, that's what it's about, I think.
But again, that's just people all over the world. They take things so personally. It isn't all about you. It's about in general. Okay,
yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah, just relax. Take a chill pill.
That's it. Now, that sounds really awesome. And I said, I'm definitely going to get you back on the podcast to talk about more once you keep progressing through your study. I think that's a really cool goal and aim that you've got there, which is awesome. But I just wanted to cover off on a couple of other things with just taking you back to your golf a little bit. You've got a pretty significant presence on social media, and you do some work with some people. Golfer Girl is someone that you're involved with. You've also been on TV in that Holy Moly game. We saw you
Holy moly.
playing that as well. But talk me through what Golfer Girl is and how that works and how you use socials inside of to promote golf and to promote yourself.
So I am pretty airy-fairy with socials now. I post what I want, when I want, and when I want to engage. I did get quite into producing content a while back, and it was just not fun for me. The fun was definitely taken out of it. I took things very personally when that was happening. You know, everyone has an opinion because they see something in a little square. So I didn't quite enjoy getting attacked over people's misconceptions. So I kind of backed off on that. But Golfer Girl the reason I work with Golfer Girl is raising money and raising awareness for charities, and, you know, using that misconception that a somewhat attractive female can't hit a golf ball, because there is nothing better than standing up on a tee, goofing around on a long drive with a bloke and smashing it 20 past him, right? Which happens more often than not on those days because they are quite charity, quite corporate related. It's always great when I get like a group of actual golfers through and they've like punched it 300 down the fairway and I'm like, yeah, I can't do that, okay? Like, I hit it about as far as your average bloke. You guys just keep going off your pop, boys.
Yeah.
So we are kind of, I think, and maybe Jazz is probably one a little bit to talk a bit more on this. Jazz is, you know, the one that runs the show. I just kind of pop in whenever she needs me to and make sure everyone's having a good time. But yeah, just challenging those misconceptions and, you know, having some fun while we're out there. Like, we have so much fun on course. I know that when I post videos, it's always just me on my own because I feel weird being that person. Like, can we get a selfie together? So, you know, I'll rock out on course in between, because when there's a group there and when I'm having a chat to someone, you've got my full attention, right? Where we are here, we're having fun, okay? It's not always about the socials. The socials are a lot of fun and it's very engaging and showing people a different side of golf too, okay? Charity days and corporate days are some of the best fun. If you gave me, you know, hey Brie, we're going to run a tournament, we want the best tournament ever, I'm going to play an Ambrose. Right? I love Ambrose, all right? You actually get to engage with the rest of your group. So yeah, just, you know, not all of my followers are golfers, so it's nice to get it out there that, hey, golf isn't all fuddy-duddy. We can get pretty, we can stand up there in a dress, we can bash some shots. You know, sometimes they have us, you know, handing out samples, and sometimes there is alcohol involved, of which we always have RSAs and ticking the boxes, making sure we're doing the right stuff, but just showing the bit more of a fun side of golf than, you know, what is always misconceived by others.
And that is probably the key thing, is when you see the social media posts come out from Golfer Girl, it's about making golf fun, and it is that it's not that stuffiness that people think golf's all about. They're you're out there having a good time and you're playing around and enjoying yourself, which is a huge positive. So if you are tuning in, Jasmine, I do want you on the podcast at some stage. So I might get your contact details from Brie, maybe and hit you up to come on and have a chat to me about changing the conception of what golf is all about. And I know she had a big day just recently, didn't she? I think for the cancer one.
That was the Christine Finlay Memorial Golf Day. So Jasmine's mum actually lost her battle to pancreatic cancer a couple of years ago. So Jasmine runs that whole day. Normally, someone will run an event and contract Jazz to come in and do the golfer girl thing. But Jasmine ran that whole day herself, and I've just got shivers now thinking about it. It's such a beautiful way for her mother's memory to live on and raise money for pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, it was cool. As I said, I saw some of the photos and just everyone seemed to be having a really good time out there. And and I'm sure there was plenty of cash that was raised, which is always a positive as well.
And the more fun we're having out there, it seems, I had an absolute blast on Thursday. I'm, sure you saw on socials, juggling and goofing and hitting shots. I had an absolute, the speaker was blasting. I had a dance party anthem playlist going. And that was one of the biggest money-raising holes on the day, just because I was having fun, so everyone else was having fun and, getting everyone involved. So
again, it just makes common sense. Have a personality as a coach and as a person involved with golf and sport in general. If you've got that personality, it'll attract people to the sport and to the game. So makes so much sense. I think there was a challenge involved, wasn't there? There was a three-way challenge. I think there was a dance, a practice, and something else you were trying to do at the same time.
Yeah. So sometimes because, in between groups, so you usually stand on a tee. Don't get me wrong. There was a group that actually wanted a golfer girl in their group. So they got, Jazz to contract a girl to come in, and she actually played the round with them. Which looks really fun. I really want to do that one time. Jazz, please, that's me. But more often than not, I'm usually standing on the tee, whether it be hitting shots into par threes or long drives for groups. I was actually doing a buy your score format the other day, but we were still hitting shots and having a wow of a time. But in between groups, we have that downtime while everyone's playing the holes. So that's when you'll see me pop on social media, do some videos, and, it's always, you don't want to sit down and lose the energy that you bring to the groups. So I'm always goofing around between, juggling and practicing around the tee, hitting shots to the markers and, having a bit of a dance. And I put up a little other box if anyone else had any suggestions of what I should do between groups. And someone popped up and was like, oh, I bet you can't do all three at the same time. And me being me was like, well, watch this, buddy. No worries. So start out having a bit of a dance, bit of a juggle with the ball. Then I lost the ball off the club. And so I just, turned around and whacked it over the top of the golf cart with a little flop shot. So bit of fun. And again, just me being it.
Really cool. I like it a lot. Okay, so tell me about Holy Moly. How did you get involved with that? And how did you end up on Australia-wide TV, sliding down icebergs? I think at one point there, weren't you? I think there was all sorts of weird stuff. How did that happen?
So the PGA and ALPG actually sent something out even before Channel 7 put out casting calls or anything like that, saying, hey, we've heard this thing is coming to Australia. They've made a couple of seasons in the US. We'd really like to get some professional representatives on there. Would you be interested? And I sort of, yeah, why not? What have I got to lose? So I kind of put my application in, and I thought they would probably go down the route of, because you're not the whole person that you are. They take snippets of your personality. So I thought they'd head down the route of the fact that, I've got a few piercings. I've got a few tattoos. I'm a female. I currently have purple hair. I don't necessarily always look like the golf pro that you expect to see when you walk into the golf shop. But they asked if we had any lucky, items, and I wasn't even thinking and put in that, when I was a junior, I didn't feel like I was going to play a good tournament unless I had my lucky socks and my lucky undies on. And so, of course, I was the chick with the lucky undies. So the lucky undies were packed up and made their way down to Brisbane for filming. We did try and film it in the US earlier, but then COVID and weather hit, so we all had to fly back. And then we just sat in limbo for near on a year. And then they, built the course down in Brisbane and got most of us back down and went through it. So it was really interesting to see the production side of TV, and the way that, I would have done 30 minutes of a master interview for 3 minutes of footage that was actually used. And, you think you say something wrong or anything like that, or you head down the line that you want to be portrayed, and you don't get to decide on the final decision on what actually gets presented to the world. So funnily enough, yes, I was on Slip and Slide, the one with the giant polar bear up the top of the ice. And I think I can tell you that I'm going to tell you that I actually injured myself on that. Okay. So I have my family messaging me being like, it was so lovely of your opponent to help you up. And I said, actually, I'm not physically able to get myself up there, and that sort of thing. And, had a couple of members and guests that had seen me on there be like, you're a golf pro and you can't even beat an amateur at putt-putt. And I'm like, no, it's not necessarily skill, man. Like,
yeah, that's it.
It's a reality TV show based on luck, and you want to have a crack at me for it. Okay, like, no worries. But it was a really good experience, and I think it was a lot of fun. And doing stuff like that, I did it, to show that, PGA golf pros they're not all white, male, that sort of stuff. Like, they do look like me. They do, we're all from different backgrounds, and just try and, again, reduce those misconceptions of what golf actually is on national television.
Yeah, and that was cool. Like I said, it exposes people that probably haven't been exposed to golf to something that is golf. And people on the podcast have heard me say quite a few times about my son. He plays every sport in the world except for golf, but he sat and watched all the holy mollies, and he was extremely excited when I said, I know her. She was in the trainee program a couple of years ago, and now she's on there on TV. So he was excited. He was very pissed off when you didn't progress to the next stage. So he was very sad that you fell out there at that stage. But no, it was good. Again, as you said, it's about exposing people to golf that possibly don't see it in general.
And the number of juniors that we had after that started airing, like parents just bringing their kids down to hit a bucket of balls. I don't think I've ever handed out that many junior clubs in a couple of months span. It was just, obviously it was aimed at the kids. It was a lot of fun. Rob Riggle was quite slapstick and just very easy humor. So it was great to see the kids loving it. And a couple of them, are you the girl from TV? Like, yeah, great to see you out here. And it was really just rewarding for me to see that and really fulfilling.
No, that's awesome. Brie, thank you so much for your time. I've kept you for plenty of time, but there's a few questions I'd like to throw to everyone. So I'm going to throw those at you before we let you go. So what advice have you got for coaches starting out?
Be ready to grind. Okay. Be ready to grind. You've got to put your head down, get your name out there, get yourself a base set up. You can't just, especially in larger cities and that sort of stuff, you can't just expect people to come to you, right? You have to have a marketable personality, and you've got to love what you do so that people will want to come and see you over Tom, Dick, and Harry down the road, right? There are other options. You need to present yourself as yourself and explore other options too, whether it be jump online or, I love just messaging people and going, hey, how did your round go today? Oh, okay. And working on that, slightly psychological aspect of things to help them sort that sort of stuff out. So it's not just waiting for people to come to you and sorting out their golf swing. Like, you've got to look at other options.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Again, all you've spoken is common sense so far through the episode, which is great.
Yay.
How about golfers out there, or advice for them, and apart from staying away from their friends on the range that we spoke about earlier?
Again, grind. Speaking to a couple of guys that have made it and are on higher level tours, you see the glitz and the glamour and the fame of, playing golf on TV, and, all of the brands are giving you product. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up one day and go out and shoot 8 under at your local club and then, oh, gee, now I can do that. I'm going to go shoot 4 under each round at a tournament, right? You have to work hard at your game, and you have to make sure that you're doing the right things off the golf course to support, what you're trying to work towards.
Like it. Great advice for the players out there. Now, we've kind of covered these next 2 questions throughout the podcast, but you said before that you wouldn't change anything in your journey so far. Everything's happened for a reason. Is there anything that you would change if you had the chance to go back?
Maybe just pulling my head in and getting my playing sorted a little bit earlier. In my last year, I went from failing my playing in my first year, and in my last year, at one stage, I was on the national top 50 list of playing averages in the country. So I would have really liked to have made a bit more money through my traineeship. It definitely would have helped support the trainee wages, and would have just made me feel a little bit better about what I was doing as well. But hindsight is 2020, and we are where we are. So.
No, that's a fair enough answer. I've got no problem with that at all. So we've kind of, again, also chatted about where you see yourself in the future, but is there anything that you want to add to in 5 years' time, apart from probably still studying the way you're going, but where do you see yourself in the future?
Obviously I love it up here in far north Queensland. So yeah, hoping to base myself up here and work mostly remotely and traveling where needed to see athletes and athlete development. So if anyone is looking for a sports psychologist in about 10 years' time, give me a hoy, because I should be about ready to go.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan. So that's all good. Okay, so you're obviously in that studying space now. So where do you go for further information? Is there anything any sites you look at, or journals you read, or anything that you find out there?
As we said before, we were on air. I read a lot. So I struggle to engage with videos and that sort of thing. I'm not like the average person. So basically, however you take information in best, find that source and just delve right into it. There'll be conflicting reports. So that's where you then start to look at, for me, I get my general information and then I go, okay, hey, this is conflicting with this. Let's jump onto, PubMed, Google Scholar, etc. So finding, trusted and reliable sources of information. I used to love, when I was going through my traineeship, just skimming through Golf WRX and My Golf Spy. They had some really good experimental things going on there, as well as the forums. The forums are interesting and amusing and sometimes very conflicting, but can be a good place for you to start with your information and remember to relate things back to yourself too. right? Like, as I said before, you've got all the data in the world that says there's more shots gained in the longer clubs than there are short game. But for me, I'm sitting there going, no, that doesn't quite align with what I identify in my game and in others' games. So yes, that data is fantastic. You've definitely got to get the ball down towards the hole. But, hey, it might be a somewhat of a difference of opinion.
The forums can be a challenging space, but they are certainly worth checking out because you can find the right people there in those forums to be able to chase up and talk to some more.
Oh, so. Yeah. And like the guy that's, got a blah-de-blah username with no picture and just pops up every now and again to throw some rubbish, probably not a great source of information. Right?
Very true.
There's loads of those out there. But yeah, looking at where the information's coming from.
Plugs. Okay. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch or continue the conversation? Is there anywhere that you want to send them to?
Complaints department straight to Brent. As I said, I do like constructive criticism, but if you're just out to attack me, please no. Generally, Instagram's the best place to find me. So finding_Brie, like the cheese. So yeah, all one word. Not actually on Facebook, so probably don't go looking for me there. Otherwise, if you need to email or anything like that, bweb@pgamember.org.au, and I should get back to you at some stage. But if it's just a complaint, it's probably just going to go to the junk.
That's it. Trolls are not wanted, so you can feel free to stay away. I'll put some links in the show notes for everyone so they can get in touch if they need to. But thank you so much, Brie, for your time. I really appreciate you coming in and chatting to me. And as I said, I can definitely feel part 2, 3, and 4 coming on once you keep progressing through your study. So really appreciate your time.
I really appreciate you being asked to be on here. And yeah, it's first podcast and I haven't had an anxiety attack yet. So we're kicking goals.
That's awesome. Thanks, Brie.
Thanks so much, Brent. Take care.